They say history repeats itself, but sometimes history hides in plain sight, and only those who look closely see the patterns forming again. Today, we look at two countries that have shaped the destiny of Asia in ways few people ever talk about: the Philippines and Japan. One was once a mighty empire that nearly conquered the entire region, while the other was a colony that suffered under its brutal rule. Yet, decades later, their roles have changed, and now they stand at a crossroads in a silent power struggle that could decide the future of the Pacific. This is the untold story of the Philippines versus Japan, the rivalry, the partnership, and the battle for influence that nobody talks about. To understand why the Philippines and Japan are locked in this quiet competition, we need to go back in time. During World War II, Japan invaded the Philippines and turned the islands into one of the bloodiest battlegrounds in the Pacific. Millions of Filipinos suffered, and thousands of American soldiers died defending the country. The scars of war ran deep, and for years, the Philippines saw Japan as a former enemy that brought nothing but destruction. But history can twist in unexpected ways. By the late 20th century, Japan had transformed itself from a defeated nation into one of the world's strongest economies. It became a global leader in technology, industry, and trade. The Philippines, meanwhile, struggled with poverty, corruption, and political instability. Slowly, Japan began to re-enter the Philippines not as an invader this time, but as an investor. Money flowed from Tokyo into Manila, building infrastructure, factories, and businesses. But beneath the surface of partnership was something more: a quiet competition for influence in Southeast Asia. Japan's main strength is its economy. For decades, it has been one of the largest investors in the Philippines. From building roads, bridges, and railways to supporting manufacturing and energy projects, Japan has been everywhere. The iconic MRT train systems in Manila and major highways were funded by Japanese loans and companies. Japan became one of the Philippines' biggest trading partners, supplying cars, electronics, and machinery. In return, Japan benefited from the Philippines' young workforce, cheap labor, and strategic location. At first glance, it looks like a win-win relationship. But the truth is, when one country controls the money, it quietly controls the future. Japan's economic power gave it influence over Philippine policy, decisions, and priorities. And in Asia, influence means everything. But the Philippines is not just a passive partner. What makes this relationship complex is geography. The Philippines sits at the heart of the Pacific, a gateway between the South China Sea and the Pacific Ocean. Whoever has the Philippines on their side controls one of the most important maritime routes in the world. Japan knows this. The United States knows this. And China knows this too. This is why the Philippines, despite being a smaller economy, holds incredible strategic power. Japan cannot afford to let the Philippines drift away, because if it does, Tokyo risks losing access and influence in one of the most contested waters in the world. This brings us to the next layer of the struggle: security. Japan, though powerful, is limited by its constitution, which after World War II banned it from having a traditional military. For decades, Japan relied heavily on the United States for protection. But as tensions rise with China, especially over the South China Sea and Taiwan, Japan has been slowly rebuilding its defense capabilities. And here enters the Philippines. With its military bases, islands, and proximity to Taiwan, the Philippines becomes a crucial partner in Japan's security plans. In recent years, Japan has provided patrol boats, aircraft, and even training to the Philippine military. It has signed defense agreements and is now openly discussing joint military drills. This is not just friendship, it is preparation for a future conflict. At the same time, the Philippines faces its own enemies. China's expansion in the South China Sea has put the Philippines in constant tension with Beijing. Filipino fishermen are blocked, islands are militarized, and sovereignty is challenged daily. The Philippines cannot fight China alone. It needs allies. The United States has always been the main protector, but Japan is now stepping in as a second shield. This creates a triangle of power: Philippines, Japan, and the United States against the rising influence of China. But triangles in geopolitics are rarely stable. They shift, they bend, and sometimes they break. Another example is technology. Japan has long dominated in cars and electronics, but now China and South Korea are challenging that dominance. The Philippines, with its young population addicted to smartphones, online games, and gadgets, has become a massive market. Every Japanese company that invests here faces competition not only from locals but from Chinese and Korean firms. This is more than just business, it is about shaping the future generation's loyalty, habits, and preferences. Whoever wins this race gains long-term influence over Philippine society. And then there's history. The memory of World War II still lingers. Older Filipinos remember the suffering under Japanese occupation. Stories of the Bataan Death March, massacres, and brutality are still told. While the younger generation is more forgiving, history leaves scars. Japan has worked hard to repair its image, offering aid, investments, and apologies. But the shadow of the past never fully disappears. Every time Japan pushes too hard, every time it looks too dominant, those old memories return. This is why Japan must walk a fine line in the Philippines, close enough to be a partner, but not so close as to look like a master. So, where is this all heading? The Philippines and Japan are now at a turning point. The world is changing. China is rising. The United States is shifting its strategies. Southeast Asia is becoming the center of global attention. In this environment, the Philippines and Japan cannot avoid each other. They are bound together by geography, history, and necessity. But the question remains, will they build a true partnership of equals, or will their relationship remain a quiet power struggle hidden under the surface? The answer may depend on leadership. Philippine leaders must decide how much to lean on Japan and how much to resist. Japanese leaders must decide how much to invest in the Philippines without repeating the mistakes of the past. And both people must decide whether to trust each other deeply or always keep their guard up. What is certain is this: if the Philippines and Japan fail to manage their relationship carefully, the consequences will ripple far beyond their shores. It could affect the balance of power in Asia, the security of the Pacific, and even the stability of the world.
This is the story if you talk about the Philippines versus Japan, not in open war, but in influence, economics, security, and culture. A power struggle hidden beneath cooperation, a rivalry disguised as friendship. And in the end, it is the Philippines that holds the key. For Japan, losing influence here would weaken its position in Asia. For the Philippines, depending too much on Japan could mean losing independence. Both nations walk a thin line, and the world is watching closely. The truth is clear. History may not repeat exactly, but it rhymes. Decades ago, the Philippines and Japan clashed in brutal war. Today, they clash in boardrooms, ports, and policies. Tomorrow, they may find themselves side by side in a conflict against China or divided once again by ambition. Only time will reveal whether this hidden rivalry becomes a lasting partnership or another chapter of conflict in Asia's long story. If you found this story eye-opening, share it so more people can understand the real forces shaping Asia today. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more untold stories, and stay tuned because the next one may reveal even deeper secrets about the power struggles that shape our world.